Hey all, this is Juan Carlos Blacker with Get a Grip on Rebates, brought to you by Light Efficient Design. That's www.led-llc.com, Light Efficient Design, bringing you the LBI Linear Transformer, one of the most flexible and versatile lighting products on the market right now. The LBI Pro is both ETL and DLC listed as both a retrofit kit and a complete fixture. It can be used to retrofit troffers, coves, wraps. It can be used as a low bay, a high bay stairwell. This product can be used for quite a few things because of its flexibility. It brings you three different color temperatures. It can be adjusted between three different color temperatures and three wattages. That brings you up to nine different SKUs and one stocked unit, one light bar, which is just fantastic in its flexibility. And on top of that, you can choose different lengths. You can go 2, 3, 4 feet lengths, connect up to 40 of these LBIs together to form a single power feed, or go seamless with connectors or linking cables, which is great. Finally, you can rest easy with their 10-year warranty and the 100,000 hours of life. So if you're interested, again, go to their website at www.led-llc.com, and that's Light Efficient Design with their LBI Linear Transformer. Welcome back again to Get a Grip on Rebates. This is Juan Carlos Blacker. I have, as always, Joe Pater on the line. How you doing, Joe?
Awesome. Nice to see you, Juan Carlos.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So today on Get a Grip on Rebates, we're going to be talking about what to expect when you apply and put in for a utility rebate in lighting, and really actually in any sort of utility rebate you might put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key word here, Joe, is process, right? It's all about the process, having the process and following that. So
yeah, that's right.
And yeah, absolutely. And so I'm thinking today, Joe, and go with me a little bit on this, is that you guys over there really are good at the process side. You guys understand it. You put through it. And so I'd like you to run through it, and I'm going to chime in while you're talking, but I want you to kind of run through the process for us on what you think is most important for people to expect as they're going through the application process and going through the programs with the utilities.
Yeah, sure. So really, as you know, with any commercial lighting project, you're going to start with a quote. And that quote is really driven by an audit in some form, whether you're getting that data directly from the customer or you're actually walking the facility. Really, one of the most important things is to get good audit information on what's going to be taken out, what's going to be replaced. All of that is going to go into, really a pre-approval request or a preparation for a rebate estimate. And that rebate estimate is going to need to know what's taken out and what's going to go in, values in terms of like quantities, wattages, what the ballast might be in the existing fixtures. And also you want to make sure that the product is going to be qualified for the program. And that can sometimes be, a piece of challenge for some players in the space who are selling products before they're technically DLC qualified. But that rebate estimate, or Energy Star, yep. That rebate estimate is the first part of the process. So understanding what the customer is going to expect to get, and if the customer at that point wants to go for application approval or pre-approval, then everything needs to be submitted to the utility for the pre-approval. And this part of the process,
interrupt you for a second there. I want to remind our listeners that go to our last episode about fine print. This is the part where you also want to be reading that fine print. You want to be looking at the details of the program, making sure you understand exactly what the utility is going to be able to provide.
Yeah. So everything goes over the fence to the utility for pre-approval. Some utilities, it might just take 24 hours for a quick turn. Others, it could take 10 days for approval. And this is also part of the process you want to make sure you get right, because sometimes the utility will say to you that you cannot purchase the equipment until you have pre-approval. And that can kind of cause a little bit of delay before the order can be placed.
Right. And something to expect as well while you're doing all this, and you should always be aware of when dealing with utilities. Utilities are notoriously slow. They are. You might be moving fast, but utilities do not move fast. They don't make decisions quickly. They don't. They don't pay quickly. Nothing is done quickly. So you have to put your patient hat on and be prepared for delays that could go much longer than you are prepared for in terms of your project timeline. So just be aware of that.
And this is why, forming good relationships with the utility is important, whether it's the utility themselves or their program implementation teams. Getting to know the players who are behind the scenes is really critical, because if you do need something rushed, it's always nice to know who to call. And
Right.
I'll say too, there are some utilities that are quicker, than others, and not everybody is slow boat. They're in the business of supplying or giving a good customer experience, and a lot of programs have really improved upon this over time.
You're being nicer than I would be, Joe, but it's true. I do agree. They have gotten better, but they are much slower than you would expect them to be. So, but that's okay. I do agree with you that they are getting better.
Yeah, a lot of improvements in the market.
Yeah.
So after pre-approval has been granted, purchase can occur, and usually the installation can occur. And once the installation is completed, then you roll into kind of like post-install document preparation. So you got to get the final invoice, usually from whoever the vendor is that's actually doing the work, and also the material invoice. And then if there is a final application that needs to be prepared, which in most utilities there are, you got to prepare all that document and kind of get it over the fence back to the utility. And the utility at that point is going to decide whether or not a post-inspection is required. And this is a key part here. You want to make sure you get that, taken care of as quickly as possible, because no payment is going to occur until that post-inspection is done and approved.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that post inspection is the most important part for these larger custom projects that we're talking about here. So, once a post inspection is done, then you submit for payment. And
that's right.
And you want to make sure your paperwork's in order. You want to make sure that you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and you have your receipts in order, and then you submit and wait for payment. So, which again may take a little longer than expected, but in some cases may not. So,
yeah, and you usually get a choice too. In part of the process, you get a choice of who's going to receive payment, whether it's the the supplier of the material, or the actual contractor, or the end customer. You usually get a choice to some extent, whether payment can go to customer or trade ally.
Absolutely. And this is then I think that's pretty important to understand.
So
I interrupted you. What you were about to say something?
Well, I was going to say, this is what we call the downstream process, or post-purchase process, meaning you're getting paid after the fact. Should we go into talking about the midstream process?
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing about the downstream process I wanted to cover, and we again talked about this a little bit in the fine print one, but it is that getting that utility verification when you're doing these projects. Often it is a contractor or maybe a distributor that is you got to make sure that the customer, the end location of that building, is in the utility that you are going to be submitting rebates for. And there are a lot of municipal areas or areas where there are multiple utilities within a small distance of each other. So you just want to be careful, right? If you're a Northern California contractor and you're used to working with PG&E, but you're doing a project, say, in Alameda, on the island of Alameda, right there next to San Francisco, that's run by a different utility. And you want to make sure that you're talking to Alameda Power and not PG&E. So just something that I think people need to be aware of as they're looking at what to expect, because worse things happen when you put together a whole project and then you're working with the wrong utility.
Yeah, that's right. You want to make sure you get it right from the beginning.
Yeah. So let's talk midstream. because the process is a little
Yeah.
different there.
It's a lot different. The big difference here is the majority of the work has already been done by the distributor. They have either signed a contractual agreement or something that enables them to deliver instant incentives to the
Right.
contractor or the end user. So that's probably the biggest difference in the front end.
Right, and really, the process there for the end user is simple. They just go and buy the discounted product. All they need to usually supply is the location of their project, and the fact that they're a commercial entity. Um, it's up to the distributor to validate all that and then request the rebates back from the utility. So it leaves the end customer, or the contractor in this case, with a lot less burden.
And that process, I think it is a little burdensome on the distributor sometimes because there will be requests for maybe documentation, sales data, things, historical sales, like what they've done in the past over LED sales.
Right.
And
Right.
that can maybe be burdensome. But the idea here is that if you take all that work up front, you could really kind of make the instant process possible for the customers coming into your distributor place of business and give them a very seamless experience, which is ultimately what we want to do is influence the end user to choose the more efficient product versus the standard inefficient product.
Right, absolutely, absolutely, and for you distributor listeners out there, that might sound particularly burdensome, but it's not. And the benefits that you can get from participating in these midstream programs with the utilities is quite big. You can increase your sales, you can provide lower costs to your customers, and you can get intimately involved with your utility program managers and be up for future programs and future work. Right. Joe and I know this well. We do a lot of this work together in the Northwest, and so we see a lot of the benefits that go to the distributors to participate in utility midstream programs. So,
yeah, I think either route you're going down, whether it's a post-purchase route or an instant route, you really just kind of want to make sure you're aware of the fine print, aware of the process, and that you follow it step by step. It's kind of difficult to deal with utilities who see that you've maybe gone ahead without pre-approval. Having to go back and ask for approval after the fact can be challenging. And I think that's probably the hardest part is just following the process. And honestly, for national players, the difficulty becomes you got to navigate hundreds of different programs.
right.
That's kind of where the difficulty comes in, and
Right, and that's where guys like you, Joe, can help out for sure. So
yeah, I mean that's what Rebate Bus is all about, is kind of flattening all those processes so you just have one entry point and you could get into any program very easily.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Joe, for those details. Again, just to go through it quickly, in terms of what you're expecting in the process, and Joe, please interrupt me if I get this wrong. But first, you want to look at the programs, get the details, read the fine print, find out if you're qualified, do a pre-inspection, buy and install the product, do a post-inspection, submit for payment. Programs, it's a much different process, but basically what I would suggest there is if you are a distributor, reach out to your utility and see if they have a midstream program that you can participate in. If they do, then work through the process to get involved in that. Not a lot of process there for the customer or the contractor on those midstream programs because they just go and buy the product after they prove their qualification. So, sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds spot on.
Excellent. Well, that is it then for us for Get a Grip on Rebates. Today, again, we spoke about the process in utility rebate applications, and love to hear what you guys think. Joe, thanks for your input, and thank you for being with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Good day.
Light efficient design, transforming light. You can visit led-llc.com to learn more.